Hey, Vic, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
Good. You're a busy bee, huh?
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. No idea. It just never ends.
I bet. So, all right. So, to start it off, something I ask like all my fellow Italians: do you call it gravy or sauce?
You mean what you put on pasta?
Yes.
Oh, sauce.
Look at you. All right. For me, it's gravy. And you're even from
Look
Pennsylvania.
at you. Yeah, Western PA.
Look at that.
Grandparents came right off the boat.
Yeah, so do mine. And people are like, well, how do they didn't call it sauce in Italy. Like, how did your grandparents call it? Gravy. I'm like, I don't know, but that's all I was taught growing up was it's gravy.
I don't remember that. I think I just always thought it was sauce.
That's funny.
And maybe
So actually,
my grandparents were trying to Americanize their family.
Yeah, right. So actually, I had the chance to actually meet you. I think it was a year ago at an anime convention in Philly. I had taken my daughters and their friends there, and that's all they talked about was wanting to meet you. That was the whole basis of going to the show, was to meet Vic.
Oh my gosh!
And we waited in line for 2 hours.
I hope I didn't disappoint.
No, you know what? Honestly, you almost did, because the funny thing was, you had to go do a panel, and they like cut the line off, and we were still probably about 10, 15 people back, and we were standing there for 2 hours, and you were trying to walk to go to the panel, and my wife, who's just like, she's got no couth, she just stops you dead, and she's like, you got to sign this for my daughter, and here, and my daughter drew a picture for you too, and gave you the picture.
I hate when that happens. I usually try to tell conventions to give me enough time after the scheduled time,
right?
So that if more people show up and and there's more to more to do, that I have the flexibility to stay there. Like don't book me for something I have to leave for, where I have to walk away from a line of people, because I really hate doing that.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's such a huge thing now, is these conventions. I mean, you could probably do a convention every weekend. Are you surprised by how much that whole convention scene has really exploded over the last couple of years?
I really am. When I was a little kid, I used to go to Star Trek conventions as a little boy, but I didn't even know that they had anime conventions or anything like that, and it wasn't until I had been recording anime, I'd been voice acting for anime for probably 2 or 3 years before somebody one day invited me to a convention, and I didn't even realize they had such a thing. And
wow.
So I went, and it was a convention in Columbus, Ohio. I'll never forget it. And it just it just grew from there. There didn't used to be as many events as there are now. I can't believe how much it's grown.
So, I mean, were you a fan of the world of anime and the convention scene early on, before you got into it?
Well, I was definitely a fan of the convention scene. As I said, when I was a little boy, it was all about Star Trek and sci-fi, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, and I would go to conventions to to see cool stuff and meet actors from shows that I loved. So I was always a fan of that kind of thing. As far as anime is concerned, it may make you laugh to hear that I was a fan of some anime shows that I watched when I was a kid, but I didn't know they were anime.
Right.
There were some shows like Speed Racer.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Kimber the White Lion and stuff like that, and I didn't realize they were anime. I just knew they kind of had a different look to them, and the style of animation was different, and the voices were different. But I didn't realize it was from Japan. So imagine how kind of funny and kind of providential in some way maybe it is that now I've, done over 200 different anime series, and I'm an anime voice actor. And when I was a little kid, I was running around watching Speed Racer and imitating the voice actors with no idea that one day I might be doing the same thing.
I was going to ask that too. Like, did you sit there? Because I know growing up, you're a few years older than me, but growing up was the same thing, like Speed Racer and watching the cartoons every day, and I would sit there and imitate all the voices nonstop.
Yeah. My friend and I did that too, all the time. My friend and I did that all the time, and like I said, imagine how funny it's been for me to to be in this world and actually do an event several years ago where I sat there with the man who voiced Speed Racer.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, crazy.
Now, how about, like, have you done conventions in Japan?
No, I haven't, because if you think about it, because they do all the anime there is in Japanese.
Right. Okay.
Like, I'll tell you a funny story. A funny story related to the same thing. I just did a convention a couple of weeks ago in Cancun, Mexico.
Okay.
And the convention chairman, the director of the convention, said to me, even before I got there, he said, "Now, you're a really, really popular English voice actor, and I don't really know if our attendees will know who you are, but I would like to try an experiment. I would like to do an experiment and see how you would do at our event." And I'll be honest with you, there wasn't a very big turnout for me because they watch anime in Spanish.
Right. Okay. I never even would have thought of that.
Yeah, and the Japanese people watch anime in Japanese, and even Italians watch it in Italian. Like these Japanese companies will sell the same shows to different countries who will then dub it in their native language.
Wow. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So how does a person who was a cop at one of my favorite vacation spots of Ocean City, Maryland, become a voice actor?
Well, first of all, the police officer thing was never a career move. That was something that I was invited to do right out of college. I did it for 2 years, just while I was kind of getting my bearings and trying to decide what I wanted to do, looking for opportunities, more in the fields that I was really interested in.
Right.
But, so the cop thing was just something to do right out of college. It wasn't really a life career choice.
Right.
But as far as voice acting is concerned, I've been acting since I was very young. And, theater and, all kinds of stage plays and musicals and even some on-camera stuff. And I've been acting since I was very, very young. And about 15 or 16 years ago,
okay,
somebody said to me, I was working on a production in Houston, Texas, and somebody said to me, "Hey, you've got a lot of experience in voice acting, don't you?" Or excuse me, "You've got a lot of experience in acting, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You ought to go and audition for this place here in Houston. They dubbed these Japanese animated series into English, and they're looking for actors." So I went and auditioned. I went and auditioned for this company, and I got cast as Vega in Street Fighter 2. Okay. And at the time, I thought it was just kind of a random, one-time weird little thing that I got to do. And then they called me a few weeks later and asked me if I wanted to do another show. And another show and another and another. And then I started meeting people at other studios in other cities and going to conventions and meeting more people. And it just kind of snowballed from there. So I never planned or expected or, strategized on how I would become a voice actor. I just had always been acting.
It just happened.
Yeah, an opportunity presented itself, and I just kind of haphazardly stepped in, having no idea what was going to happen. And it's just, I was very fortunate. In fact, I often say very blessed to have been given the opportunity to get into it when the business was still very small and still growing, and I just happened to get in on the ground level.
It's like one of them things like where you hear like a band like maybe like an Aerosmith, they write Dream On and they hated it and they never thought it would be anything, and here it's like this iconic song 40 years later where kind of like you like almost completely by accident got into this and you've become like the top of your game.
Yeah, that's why I'm always very careful to give God the credit for it, because I did not plan this. I did not in any way plan or expect that any of this would happen. So I am so profoundly grateful for the opportunities that I've been given in voice acting and the stuff that I'm doing. And I wake up every morning just a little a little amazed that I get to do the things that I do for a living, and to have done it for long enough to have, built a fan base up and become relatively known in this industry, and then get to go around the country and meet fans and hopefully be a positive encouragement to them. It's really an extraordinary gift, and I'm very grateful for it.
That's awesome. Now, was it hard to make that transition from being an actor into voice acting?
I will say that it's harder than people think it is. Voice acting is at its core acting.
Right.
So in that regard, most of the voice actors I know who have done any amount of voice acting work have a huge background in acting.
Okay.
Voice acting is at its core acting. However, it's a different set of skills. I have certainly seen plenty of actors who were not good voice actors.
Wow. Okay.
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's different. There are a lot of actors. Let me give you an example. There are a lot of actors who have great power to communicate non-verbally.
Right.
They can stand a certain way, or make certain facial expressions, or look at you a certain way, or carry themselves, or gesture a certain way, and they are very good at acting and creating and communicating characters with those tools, but none of those tools are of any use.
Right.
When it comes to voice acting. So it's in that respect, it is different, but I don't know any voice actors. Oh, well, you know what? I take that back. Of the 100 voice actors I know well, I think there may be 2 that I know who have no background in acting. Like literally 2 of the 100 that have no particular experience as an actor. They just somehow got into voice acting, and they were good at it, and they've continued to do it. All of the rest of them have a huge amount of background and training in acting.
So if somebody came to you asking you for advice on how to get into voice acting, you would recommend becoming an actor first then?
Absolutely. In fact, every voice actor I've ever done a panel with, and believe me, there are hundreds, when that question is asked, that is the answer. The 2 simple answers to how do I become a voice actor is, number 1, become an actor, develop your skills as an actor, take every opportunity possible to to develop your skills as an actor. And then secondly, you have to live where the work is. You have to be in a place where that type of work is done.
Right.
I've often told people, I've often told fans who ask me that question, I could be the greatest voice actor who ever lived, and if I live in Pikeville, Kentucky, chances are I'm not going to get many opportunities to voice act.
Right.
And and if I considered myself a talented country western singer, then it would behoove me to move to Nashville.
Yes.
Or to go someplace where that kind of work is done. Not sit in Pittsburgh and say, man, why can't I get any country jobs? And why can't I get my country singing career off the ground? Well, you got to be where those opportunities exist.
Where would be the hotbed where that exists?
Well, there are about five cities. There's Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, of course, is probably the biggest. New York City, to a degree, and then Vancouver, Canada, and a little bit in Toronto. So maybe 5 or 6 at the most.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So something you were just touching on too is singing, and you were a singer as well, and you have a background in music.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very much so. In fact, I've been writing and producing and singing twice as long as I've been voice acting.
Wow.
And I tend to think, to be honest with you, I tend to think that musical ability has a lot to do with. Well, let me rephrase it. I tend to think that people that have a natural musical talent or skill are often at an advantage when it comes to dubbing anime. I can't quite explain it. I can't quite explain it except to say that there's kind of a rhythm. There's kind of a rhythm and a tempo to voice act. And people that have a musical sense to them tend to lock into it more easily, tend to just have a sense of syncing, voice syncing and rhythm of performance, and it just tends to benefit them.
So, did I see correctly now that you were on Star Search?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. In 1993, I was living in Houston, Texas, and Star Search came to town to audition talent for people that wanted to audition for Star Search. And I auditioned, and they chose me. And to be honest with you, that was actually the first time I ever came to Los Angeles in my life. I was, 93. I was 31. And, so I came out here and I sang a song that I wrote on the show because I didn't think I would win, so I figured I would at least sing a song that I wrote and get a little exposure as a songwriter.
Right.
And nothing ever came of it, but it makes for a fun story.
And you've also sang the national anthem at Houston Astro games a few times?
Oh, yeah, dozens of times, yeah.
Wow,
When I lived in Houston, I used to do that a great deal, actually. In fact, one of the many jobs that I had was I used to run camera for professional sporting events. Okay. So I did a lot of work with the Astros and the, back then it was the Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of camera work for professional, like NBC Sports or ABC Sports.
Oh, wow.
And I sang the national anthem several times for the Astros for the baseball games. And even they asked me to learn the Canadian national anthem.
Oh, really?
So that I could sing the Canadian anthem for whenever the Montreal Expos came to town.
Oh, wow.
So
Now that I
was
picture
saying
that as such a scary thing to do, though.
Well, why
You
would
there?
you do that?
Oh.
Yeah, why would you do that?
I, you've seen
Thank
or
you.
heard the
Thanks, guys.
nightmares so many times, and to have to be there and doing, especially in a baseball stadium. With,
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell you this. Here's the most difficult part of singing the national anthem. The most difficult part of singing the national anthem is the delay.
Okay.
There is an absolutely enormous delay in your voice. Like when you sing it and you hear it come out of your mouth, with your own ears.
Right.
And then literally 2 seconds later, you hear it bouncing around the stadium. It's something you literally just have to block out what you're hearing and just push your way through the song.
Wow.
It's really strange. It's like you sing it, and then you hear it 2 seconds later, and people tend to want to slow way down because the echo is really throwing them off. So you just have to barrel through it and not pay any attention to the echo.
Right. Wow.
But it was fun. It's a lot of fun, and a lot of my friends in Houston used to come to the games, and I enjoyed that a lot.
That's I mean, you have a resume, like you can just look on your IMDb and it's like, a football field long, but that doesn't even like scratch the surface of all the other things you've done in your career.
Well, I think that means that I'm pretty old. I think that's what that means.
I'll say it this way. It means you're very talented.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I've always loved doing anything of a creative nature. I've always enjoyed that. So, whether it's music or singing or playing the piano or recording music or acting or performing in some way or graphic design or drawing or sculpting or filmmaking, I mean, I've just always been extremely, drawn to anything of a creative nature.
Wow. Huh. So do you do drawing as well, too?
Yeah. Not great, but I have, since I was very young, done a lot of, like sculpting and building things with my hands. I've always just been very, very much about making things and creating things,
Right. Wow. Now, have you ever had like moments, whether you're taping, doing a voice acting, or in real life, where say you're either doing your voice acting voice, whatever character you're doing, and you somehow slip into your real voice, or even while you're in your normal life, have your normal voice and then just automatically slip into a character that you're doing?
Well, I often, just for fun. I mean, just for the sake of just, without even thinking about it, will say certain things throughout my normal day in a character voice, like, could be anything, like, just for fun, like if I'm at a restaurant, or, and the waitress asks me something, I may, answer in a humorous voice of some sort, just for fun. But it's not really conscious. It's just like one of those things, like,
right.
If you called me and you said, "Hey, Vic, it's Bay," and I'm like, "Hello, Bay, how are you doing?" I mean, just for fun, It wouldn't really
right.
mean. It wouldn't really be like, "Oh, I just accidentally slipped into some character I played." No, And I'll tell you this also, that when it comes to voice acting, a lot of the characters that you play, or at least a lot of the main characters that I play tend to sound very similar to my natural voice.
Okay.
But the reason for that is because the goal of a voice actor is not to change his voice. The goal of a voice actor is to play the role authentically.
Wow, okay.
So when kids ask me, do you try to change your voice every time you play a character? Well, no, because that's not the goal. If I felt like I had to sound different every time I did a role, I probably wouldn't get more than 3 or 4 roles.
Yeah. And I was going to say that,
because it's not about sounding different. It's not about sounding different. And the example that I love to give the kids of this particular point is, how many movies have you seen, Brad Pitt in? How many characters have you seen Robert De Niro play in movies? And yet, he always sounds like Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
They always, Brad Pitt sounds like Brad Pitt, because the goal was not to change his voice. The goal was to do whatever vocally the character required.
Right.
So if the character is sad or terrified or confused or overjoyed, or devastated or in great pain, as long as you communicate those emotions in the voice of the character, then you're voice acting.
Wow. Now, do you think, maybe it's just me, because maybe my eyes are being open to it more because of my daughters, but do you think voice actors in general have been getting a lot more respect over the last few years?
I think so, and I think certainly within our industry. I think that the more that really good anime shows, the more that really good shows release really good dubs of the shows, and the more that anime companies release shows, where the voice acting is really good, and the fans really connect with it, and it really moves them, makes them laugh or makes them cry, whatever. The more that happens, the more that people, tend to want to look up who's the actor behind this character that I love so much. Right. And I would estimate that probably at least once a week, I get an email from a fan that says, I have been watching such and such a show, and I love it so much, and I love this character so much that I decided to look up on the internet to see who does the voice of this character, and it was you. So I think that, as anime companies release really good dubs with good performances, more and more kids are coming to, more and more fans of all ages, I should say, are coming to appreciate the actors behind the characters.
Cool. Yeah, that's just by, like I said, when we saw you at the convention, the overwhelming response you get, it's like mind-blowing. For people that really, they don't know your face, per se, and there's lines around the block to see you. So it's mind-blowing to me.
It is mind-blowing to me as well, my friend. Believe me. I will tell you that every time I do a big convention, especially a convention that I've been to before.
Okay.
Every time I do a convention that I've been to before, I think to myself, this time, I'm going to go out to my autograph session and nobody's going to be there. This is going to be the time, this is going to be the day when nobody's really that interested. They feel like they've met me or they've seen me or I'm old news or whatever.
Right.
And I always tell myself, maybe today is going to be the day And to be honest with you, fortunately, I'm very, very gratified to say that, that has not yet happened. And I'm so enormously grateful that the fans continue to enjoy my work and come out to meet me and say hello and take pictures and let me sign things for them. And I hope it continues, because it's a really great, privilege and joy in my life.
That is a scary thought, though. Like, we were just at a convention over this past weekend. It's called Monster Mania, and there was a lot of horror stars, movie stars, and all that were there, but
Right.
There was not like a real big turnout for a lot of the stars. As a matter of fact, one of the stars that was there was George Wendt, Norm from Cheers. And
sure.
I loved that show, and I loved the Norm character. So I went and met him, but literally, I mean, if he got one person every 10, 15 minutes, I mean, I felt bad. I felt really bad.
I know, it's hard. I know, and you know what? I've been there, my friend. I used to go to conventions, Star Wars and pop culture conventions when I was younger, long before I ever did any voice acting work. I would go to these conventions with my friends, and we would walk up, and there would be some actor from some famous old TV show, and he's literally sitting there reading a book, and nobody is at his table. And I felt so bad. I mean, it just, you know what I mean? It just broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for them. And now, after doing what I've been doing for as long as I've been doing it, I really appreciate the fans coming out and
right.
taking the time to line up and stand in line and meet me. And I hope to continue to impart to them always how much it means to me that they do that.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever thought about going into a different direction of cartoons to work for, like Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, or anything like that?
Well, I would love to do something like that, but to be honest with you, the competition is very rough. And I was very fortunate. Like I said, I was very fortunate to get involved in voice acting when it was in anime voice acting, when it was much smaller,
right?
Not as popular. So, I would love to do something like that, but if the opportunity arose, I would certainly take it. But it's it's a pretty competitive business.
Has it gotten more competitive over the last so many years as well?
Absolutely. Because the more that people realize the popularity and the power of animation, the more people want to do it.
They want to do it. Now, what's been your personal favorite character you've done?
Well, for a long time, I always shied away from answering that question, because I always knew that, anybody that asked me, any fan, I should say, that asked me that question probably had in their mind a character of mine that they liked best.
Right.
And they probably were secretly hoping I would say that character. So for the longest time, I tended to shy away from that question. But anymore, I tell people that, Full Metal Alchemist and Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist was probably the favorite thing that I've ever done. And I played that character longer than I've played any other character. And it's a really, really wonderful role. And but then, there are several other characters that are a very close second place. Tamaki from Oran High School Host Club, and Reem from Free, a new show that I'm working on, and Dark from The Angel, and Zero from Vampire Knight, and characters from Naruto and Bleach, and a dozen other shows.
It goes on and on.
I tend to really love a lot of the roles that I played.
As a matter of fact, my daughter showed me a video of you earlier at a convention doing the Edward Elric voice while sucking on helium.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, the helium days. Yes. I was at a convention. I was actually at a convention in Alaska when that video was shot.
Alaska, wow.
Yep.
Huh. That's funny. That was hysterical. Has there been any roles that you've really, in your heart, you've wanted to do and you've never been given the opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course. There have been several characters or roles that I really, really was hoping to get to play, and I didn't get cast. And, but, disappointment is a very large part of acting.
Right.
So, I would tell people, man, if you can't take rejection, or, if being disappointed and rejected after you put yourself out there and try something, if that's difficult for you, then by all means, don't go into acting or voice acting or
right.
or singing. I mean, anything that, the odds are high that you're not going to get cast more times than are.
Yeah. And my daughter wanted to know, what's it like working for Funimation?
I love Funimation. I've worked for Funimation for probably 10 plus years. And I have a lot of very dear friends there. I've probably done 60 or 70 shows at Funimation and love those. I'm going to Funimation next week.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So, yeah, I love Funimation.
Cool. And anything else you have coming up that you're any conventions or anything or appearances?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would encourage anybody that's interested in coming out and saying hello to check out my fan club website, www.risenbullrangers.com. RISENBOOL, Risenbull. That's the little town that Edward and his brother come from in Full Metal Alchemist. But I have a convention. I have a convention schedule there that you can see where I'm going to be every week. And this coming weekend, I'm actually going as a fan to the Star Trek convention in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
And then I'll be appearing the next following week at several conventions in, let's see, there's one in Windsor, Ontario. And then the following week, there's one in the Yukon. And then the following week, there's one in Los Angeles. And then I've got several coming up over the next few months. So,
now that's one thing. I mean, you're a fan still. You're not just the voices behind.
Yeah, and I mean, well, yeah, I certainly am a fan, and in fact, I'm a huge Star Trek fan in particular, and I don't know if you or your even know about my web series, but I executive produced a web series called Star Trek Continue. We have completely rebuilt sounds from the original series of Star Trek, and I put a bunch of my actor friends together, and we're continuing to create and produce that pick up right where the original series left off, and I'm getting to fulfill my childhood dream of playing Captain Kirk.
That's awesome.
StarTrekContinues.com is the website, and check it out.
Yeah, I was going to say you must be a huge Star Trek fan, because almost every time I Google your name or put you in YouTube, something with Star Trek comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan.
That's awesome, though.
Pretty big fan of Star Trek.
Vic, this has been awesome. It's been great finally talking to you.
Thank you. Now, where are you located?
I'm actually right outside of Philadelphia. I live in the suburbs of Philly, right on the Delaware border.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm fairly certain I'm doing some events up there this year in that area. So either have your daughter or you keep an eye on my convention schedule, and if I'm going to be at one anywhere near you, please come and say hello.
I absolutely will. And
Okay.
she has a request for a voice. If you can say hi to Rita in the Burger's voice from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh my gosh, Bercher?
Yeah.
Bercher. Oh my gosh, no one ever asks me about him. Wow. Wow. So, and who is this for?
Rita.
Rita. Let me think for a minute. Rita, don't stand in my way. You know I'm the fastest human in the universe.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And if I could just get you to cut
having me, man.
Thank you, Vic.
Go ahead.
And if I could just get you to have a kind of ID for me for the station, for the show, it's Totally Driven Radio, and however you want to do it. You're the man of many voices.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, this is Vic Mignogna, voice actor for shows like Dragon Ball Z, Fullmetal Alchemist, Naruto, and Bleach, and you are listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Awesome. Vic, you are the man. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you
my
soon.
Friend. I hope so, too. Thanks, bro.
You're welcome. Take care, man.
All righty. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.